Okay, viewers, this is Vaughn, Dr. James Vaughn speaking, and it's Thursday, 15th of January 2026. And I'm going to make this video as short as possible, but in this video, I'm just going to talk about attractive, sexy women out there and potential dates, etc. Especially for single people out there like myself. And from my experience, I can say for certain, if you think about it logically, the chances are that the sexiest women are usually involved in or end up in the sex industry, and if not the sex industry, as sex workers, prostitution, etc. The reason being, they can make money that way. That's the reason. Their good looks are so good and attractive. They usually try to make every buck out of it, if you like, and the potential there is immense. Especially nowadays, obviously, social media as well, and all those models out there. There's a lot of competition there, obviously, and but they've all got an option nowadays, an opportunity to display themselves, especially on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and even YouTube to some extent. So, what have I noticed? Well, like I said, the chances are if someone is attractive and very good looking, especially a woman, and they usually do get, incidentally, the most views on social media these days. If you look at the ratings and the figures for the statistics for number of views, it's immense. Most of them are women, attractive women, models, etc., who get the views. People like me, blokes like me, men like me, don't necessarily get that much viewership, obviously, and I'm probably just watching them and scrolling through, flicking through the videos, maybe just quick flick for them, and I think that's quite common, not just adolescents and teenagers and the older population, men especially. I think they obviously are glued onto them, and Top Shelf seems to have disappeared because of the competition, which might be good news as well. But they're glued onto their Android sets or their iPhones, etc., or iPads, etc., and whilst they're scrolling through, flicking through those images, artificial images, sometimes artificial intelligence images, sometimes they're computer generated. So you have to be wary. Obviously, you might not be really seeing a real person at the end of the day, and you might be just flicking over just an artificially produced image, and none of them know that. You see, but the ratings are there. And that's evidence that there's obviously demand for that, and it's obviously shifted to social media platforms, and the old top shelf days seem to be offended, and people usually get caught in the library or something, and maybe a Puma bag carrying top shelf magazine. Those days are gone now. Everyone's got Android phones, except for in Australia. Obviously, they've put a ban on social media uh, for a certain age group, for younger generation. That's the recent news there, but I'm not sure if that's anything to do with that. But porn certainly does sell, pornography and soft porn, regardless, etc. And that's where the business line is, obviously, and like I said, the ratings for the women are much higher, the attractive women especially, and it gives them the chance, obviously, to make money that way. And obviously, you've heard of people like porn actresses like Bonnie Blue, the one who got caught recently in I think it was Malaysia or Indonesia, something like that, and she was banned from that place. She does porn movies as well, Bonnie Blue, but she's from the UK, and obviously the Canadian one, Sunny Leone. She's very popular, but she's settled down now, married with kids. I think she doesn't do that anymore, but she's made a lot of money out of porn as well. So it is a kind of a lucrative industry, the sex industry, and I've mentioned like in my previous videos, maybe not now, obviously in the older ones, older videos, maybe they might have been deleted by now, but I'm not sure if the content is still there. And I did refer to certain countries where sex with sex workers is tolerated. That sex with sex workers, or some people call them prostitutes. It depends on how you look at it. You see, obviously, if they're doing a job, maybe that some other women ain't doing, maybe. But I think what needs to be mentioned is those women ain't just necessarily going to be the average looking woman or normal woman. in everyday walking life, that you might see across the roads and streets. They usually are of a particular brand. Their speciality is obviously able to attract someone, lure someone, seduce someone, and make money out of it as a business. Therefore, by that definition, they must be quite good looking. So the chances are the women that end up in that role are usually the most best and attractive looking, and if they can successfully um, seduce someone and the takings from them, as in particular, the money that they fork out from them is incredible. And that's what sustains their livelihood, of course. They have to pay rent as well, especially if the ones in the brothels, etc. But the ones in Amsterdam, they usually are regulated. And so are the ones probably in Las Vegas, Nevada, etc., the state of Nevada. They're probably uh, regulated as well, and many parts of Australia as well. They're probably regulated. The ones in New Zealand, however, they're exemption. There's no regulation there, so there's no need to worry about them being tested out by law enforcement officers or officials, etc. And obviously, it's not just about that. Obviously, it's for your safety that they are sort of checked, regulated. Like STDs, they might be carrying out, if they're not carrying out STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, that's a risk there that they pose if they're not regulated. But also, there's a risk that they might be, um, not so not so appealing. That maybe they've gone past that point of the yield point, if you like, of you know of copulation or sexual intercourse. So it won't be an enjoyable experience. Maybe they've gone too flack or something. Slack, like flags. That's what they call them. Obviously, when they have gone too far, kind of. And sometimes they just don't know the limit, do they? And even in Germany, of course, where sex with sex workers is allowed, it's legal, completely legal. Interesting, in Thailand, it's not actually legal, although it does go on. And people go to Bangkok, etc. It's not actually legal. It's not declared legal like it is in Amsterdam, for instance, and Germany, and parts of other parts of Europe, maybe, and even in Turkey, Bangladesh, and Lebanon, for instance. Sex with sex workers is actually legal. If you look at the map and put those same questions in your AI, for instance, and it'll give you that same response. And So they're making money, obviously, because they're attractive. That's the main thing to remember. And they're able to seduce someone and lure someone quite instantly, almost sometimes multiple times, many times over. And that's how they make their livelihood, isn't it? That's how they make money. That's their speciality. That means the normal people out there, they're very unlikely to be, the sexy sort. Although some of them are sexy and they refrain from that activity, it's kind of rare, isn't it? And most women are kind of hard up, so they need the money as well. And if they're not in the porn industry, maybe they're on soft media, such as social media. So that's what my opinion is anyway. That's what seems to be going on, and that's where the ratings are, and that's proof of the pudding, if you like. And obviously, men, like myself, don't get that, do we? We don't get that level of attention for obvious reasons. Like I said, I think most men anyway, are just flicking through uh, on the social media sites, and gone are the days of going for top shelf. And I think that was the norm in the past few decades when they didn't have the internet revolution, etc. So that's what's changed. Obviously, technology has changed quite considerably, like I said, it is down to opportunity and options available. But there are a lot of attractive women out there and models as well, and there's so much competition out there. That's the main thing to remember. And not all of them are going to be necessarily pornographic or explicit in that sense, or making porn movies, if not porn movies, working in the sex industry. So they might not be doing that, obviously, but the sex industry ones, they do have to rely on that element of being able to track someone repeatedly, sometimes to seduce them repeatedly. And like I said, most women, normal women, ain't specialists in that area, and I don't think they've got the skills there or the experience to do that. And that's how they make the money, obviously, because they are able to track them, and that's the whole name of the business, isn't it? And there wouldn't be no business if they're so unattractive, for instance, just say people just walk past them, wouldn't they? And they wouldn't even attempt, having any activity with them, any sexual encounter with them, etc., business or otherwise. So that's about it. That's all I like to say in this video. So do be aware, the ones that are doing business are usually kind of quite attractive, if they're successful. That is, the ones that are very successful are obviously those ones, and some of them have made porn movies as well, and soft porn, etc. as well. If not on social media, selling themselves as models or something. But normal women out there, they might not be necessarily that appealing. So that's what you got to remember. Because that's their speciality line, you see. And without that speciality line, they can't do business. You see, they'd be out of business if they weren't attractive. So the chances are those sort of women are in those businesses. Like I said, most attractive women are in those businesses, and if they're not on social media, they're most likely in porn, or in the ultimate case, in maybe even in sex work, the sex industry, uh, prostitution, etc. That might be even the case, but it will depend on their looks, of course, and their appeal. So that's the bottom line there, and everyone knows that. And obviously, there'll be a stage when they won't be able to make any money if their looks go or something. So they are counting on that, their looks, for instance. So people think that they're just tracking women when they're thinking they're sex workers or something. They're not just tracking at having a go at sex workers. They're having a go at attractive with sex workers, usually attractive looking women. That's where they're making the mistake. They're not that attractive themselves because they're not professional enough, and they haven't got the looks enough to do that again and again. And they're specialists in that field. So people do have a go at them. Maybe it's envious competition, isn't it? Jealousy from women, other women, the normal women. We've got average looks, like Tenko or Prisoner Cell Block H, those sort of women, no one fancies those sort of women, do they? You've seen Cell Block H, the Australian drama series, other than the officers there, I don't think they're that sexy, are they? I mean, and even Tenko ones, that drama in Japan, their prisoner. I think maybe the new ones, obviously Neighbours or something, or Home and Away, maybe there might be some attractive ones there on the beaches, except wearing bikinis or something. But there has to be an element of appeal, obviously, to sell, and that's the whole point here that I'm making out. And obviously, they do sell more than men, and that's the most popular sort of item on these social media sites. There's an opportunity for them to show themselves off. Not necessarily always in bikinis or lingerie, but sometimes in wearing dresses as well. So it will depend on the function as well, and the type of women, if they want to look elegant or stylish, etc. for the occasion. So it will depend on that as well. And obviously, I'm not talking about gigolos here, but even gigolos are kind of professional as well. So that scene in that film, and she says to him, "How much for one F?" And he says, "As guide or translator." I don't think we do that sort of thing. He tries to say, and what's the most common language, the international language, French or English, that sort of thing. And then, of course, Robert Redford, the late Robert Redford, saying, £1,000,000 for the night, a one night stand. Think about it. The money will last your lifetime, but the night will come and go. I think that might lure a lot of women into the sex industry. Maybe they might think they might meet a millionaire, a multi-millionaire like Robert Redford. He's obviously deceased, so they won't be meeting him, obviously. But that sort of thing goes on as well, isn't it? And I think most average women, they don't go for the Oki or the Oki and the Skokie or something, like that. Officer and gentleman movie. I can get that right here. I don't want an Oki from a Skokie. Remember what she says, And he goes and hangs himself in the toilet. Obviously, he's no high life, obviously, and she won't be going places with him. Just a retired farm worker or something, So it is down to occupation and lifestyle as well. That's also flashy and attractive to women as well. The lifestyle women hope to achieve, and the glamorous lifestyle in particular as well. So sometimes these porn sites and even social media does allow that. To escapism kind of. That's what everyone's looking into. Some form of escapism, get into a glamorous world or something, and sell themselves. Dr. James Bond on Thursday, 15th of January 2026.